Yo, Tiao, you seen that shit?
Yeah, the divas in the building. Bounce on them, let's get it. Yeah, divas in the shit. Did it, did it, did it, did it, did it, did it. We the diabolical diva, baby, watch how we step. Watch it, step right. Whole crew too fine, too lit, too blessed, too blessed. Floating in the room, yeah, the vibes they set. Float, they set. Ain't met them yet. Name another squad, harder, we ain't met them yet. I ain't met them yet. I smooth like the skin tone, creamy with the flex. Classy, but she slide if you come in incorrect. Don't try it. Cookie so sweet, but she crumble. Who you test? Got a monster in the sheets, yeah, she eating the ballet. Like in the dark, she can go those things. Beam on the beach, she the vibe you see. Ladies with the cheese, feeling body like a problem that you never finna clean. Legend in the making, and she walking like a fable. Every time she pop out, whole sitting stable. Sunday with a drip, cause she sweet, cause she tasteful. Cold on her head, a little baby too graceful. Did a stay, did it, yeah, she always wanna know. Big step of energy, she never gets stuck. Whole team bad, yeah, the pressure too much. If the world need a vibe, we the ones they call us. Soft when we do, savage on cue. Pretty in the face of the two brand new. Heels on the floor and the jeans all true. To remove it, winning quite a how we do. Divas step, divas rep, on press, we slay. Okay. We the diabolical divas, baby, watch how we step. Watch it. Oh, cool, too fine, too lit, too blessed. Floating in the room, yeah, the vibes they like some better. We ain't met them yet, like
Greetings, everyone. Thank you all for tuning into another informative video here on Paradigm Shift TV 314. We have a collaboration today with Timothy's The Average Black Men Show.
Right on. Hello, Divas. Hello, shout out to Paradigm Shift, DMG, Diabolical Divas. We make it happen. I don't know who it is, but somebody has some feedback. I don't know if they have the YouTube open in their background, maybe, because I hear it twice. Okay, it's gone now.
You got sent up there twice.
That could be what it is. Okay, there you go. Shout out to the panel. Shout out to Paradigm Shift, everybody. Shout out to the Diabolical Divas. Let's go.
Hello, everybody. It's your girl Light. And tonight we have a very interesting show. We're going to be talking about the breakdown of the Black family. Information courtesy of Timothy's.
Hey everybody, it's Cookie. Shout out to the panel, shout out to the shift, shout out to us divas. Let's get this cracking.
Did
it? This should be a great show. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be really, really interesting.
Ben?
What's up, y'all? Looking forward to all the controversy. Let's get it.
Sunday?
Hey, Sunday Ray, the one y'all love to hate. I'm looking forward to this one. Looking forward to see what everybody got to say about it.
All right, and as you all know, I'm Ivory Scales. On with a scale on me, real heavy.
And everything major.
Nothing big.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't trying to take over your show. You know, I'm known for taking over show. All right, so today I just want to go over the current state of where the Black family is today and kind of go over the history of it, and so we can kind of make sense of where we are today, because so many narrative has been spent and there's been an actual design put in place that has directed us to the place that we're in today. So as long as we continue to adhere to all of these stereotypes, negativity, and all of the tools that are put in place to pull us apart, then we'll never come back together. I got a couple of videos I can play, and we can react to those.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay, you gotta share my screen. Just it's at the bottom. Just pull it up.
Uh,
And if everybody can go on mute so the video play clear, please.
The Untold Truth of the Black Family, the Moynihan Report. In 1965, a 78-page document titled The Negro Family, The Case for National Action, now famously known as the Moynihan Report, was released by the U.S. Department of Labor. Its author, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, warned of a tangle of pathology within the black community, specifically pointing to the rise of female-headed households as a threat to progress. For decades, this report has been used to fuel a damaging narrative that black women pushed men out of the home and that black men abandoned their families. But when we look closer at the data and the historical policies of that era, an untold truth emerges. The breakdown was not a cultural choice, it was a survival strategy. What looked like abandonment was often an act of profound sacrifice, and what looked like instability was actually a series of tactical decisions made to keep children fed in a system designed to exclude their fathers. When Moynihan used the term tangle of pathology, he was describing a theory that the black family had become a self-sustaining engine of social failure. He argued that because of the history of slavery and oppression, the family structure had reached a point where it was no longer just a victim of poverty, but a creator of it. In his view, this tangle was a knot of interconnected issues. Female-headed households led to a lack of male authority, which led to school failure, which led to unemployment, and eventually a multi-generational reliance on welfare. He believed that even if the government provided jobs, this tangle was so deeply entrenched that the community could not recover without a total reconstruction of its family life from the outside. But the untold truth we are exploring today challenges that definition. We are looking at how that tangle was not an internal social failure, but an external web of laws and economic traps that left families with no other choice but to adapt in the ways they did. To understand the missing men, we must first understand the missing jobs. The Moynihan Report itself admits that the fabric of conventional social relationships has all but disintegrated for the urban poor because of economic exclusion. By the mid-1960s, the industrial engines of America, the mills and factories, were beginning to shudder. For the black man, who was often last hired and first fired, this was a death knell for the traditional provider role. The report notes that by 1960, roughly 21% of black women were living with absent husbands. But here is the nuance the narrative often misses. The report acknowledges these husbands were often absent for other reasons, besides separation or divorce. The untold truth is that many of these men did not leave their families. They left their cities. They migrated across state lines in a desperate search for work, sending money back home while remaining legally absent to ensure their families did not lose access to local aid. The report links these family patterns directly to migration. These men were not runaways. They were economic refugees within their own country. For the families where the father stayed close, a more insidious force was at work: the man in the house rule. Under the Aid to Families with Dependent Children, or AFDC, welfare benefits were strictly reserved for households without an able-bodied male present. Imagine the choice. A father, unable to find work at the closed mill, stays in the home and the entire family starves. Or, the father tells his wife to go to the welfare office alone, claim he is gone, and secure the check that keeps the children alive. Many men actively told their wives and the mothers of their children to seek assistance because they knew their presence was a financial liability. This led to a culture of hiding the father. Men lived in shadows, slipping into their own homes at night, hiding in closets during surprise midnight raids by social workers who were sent to verify that no man was present. The Moynihan Report highlights the startling increase in welfare dependency. However, it fails to emphasize that the system mandated that dependency by making the father's presence a punishable offense. The government did attempt to intervene through work training programs. The Manpower Development and Training Act of 1962 and the Job Corps were framed as the solution. For black men who already had a solid educational foundation, these programs worked. They gained the skills to enter the burgeoning technical sectors. However, for the many men who had been failed by segregated and underfunded school systems, men with little to no education, these programs were a mirage. The report's evaluations showed that many unemployed fathers lacked the sufficient background in basic education to even qualify for vocational training. It was not until late 1963 that amendments were made to include literacy and basic math. For years, a massive segment of black fathers was stuck, too uneducated for the training programs, too able-bodied for welfare, and too present for their families to receive housing. The system did not give them a path, it gave them a dead end. Perhaps the most heart-wrenching and long-term effect of these policies occurred within public housing. Even after the broader welfare man in the house rules were changed, public housing authorities maintained rigid standards for who could reside in a subsidized unit. This created a destructive cycle that persists in the memory of many communities, the 18-year-old sacrifice. If a mother was in public housing and her son reached adulthood, his presence as an unemployed adult male could put her entire family at risk of eviction. Mothers were often forced to make the agonizing decision to put their sons out of the house at 18. This was not because they did not want their sons, it was because they had younger siblings to protect. They could not risk the roof over their heads for a son the system now viewed as a squatter. This policy did not just push out husbands, it fractured the bond between mothers and their adult sons, creating a culture of early displacement that was dictated by the fine print of a housing lease, not a lack of family values. So in many cases, they hid their sons the same way they hid their husbands. The Moynihan Report concluded that the Negro family was in a state of complete breakdown. But history shows us something different. It shows us a people who were targeted by policies that used their very survival as a weapon against them. The truth is that black men did not abandon their homes. They were often forced out by a government that made their absence the only way for their children to eat. Black women did not push men away. They carried the weight of a system that penalized them for having a partner. When we tell this story, we must move past the statistics of absenteeism and look at the reality of enforced absence. The black family did not fail. It survived one of the most sophisticated social engineering experiments in American history. It is time we tell the truth about that survival and the hardships that they still face today as a people. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more videos like this, or would like other topics to be covered, please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe.
Wow.
Right. So bombard me with questions as you can. Let me have it. Because the
Okay.
whole point of this was to show that, there's that narrative that gets pushed that the reason the black family is messed up because the women pushed all the men out, and women the ones filed divorce and all of this, and they broke up the black. It's like, no, that's not even what the real history is. Not at all. Not even close. And
I mean,
and after we talk about this video, we're gonna bleed into how the crack era had an effect too.
Okay. I never heard that the program was for the black man, and they ended up switching it over to the black woman because the women was more literate than the black men. Like, this is the first time I ever heard of that.
well, what happened was that they implemented work programs for fathers, like Timothy has presented in the video. There was that percentage of fathers who were literate, and then there was a percentage that was illiterate. So if you look at the percentage of the fathers who were illiterate being larger, they ended up ending the program for the fathers and then shifting to the mothers to get them stable as far as childcare and being able to go into the workforce. But we have this thing on social media that they, oh, like Timothy has said, oh, they put these men out, and it was just men were being put out. But you gotta kind of ask yourself, Where did they go? If
What?
all of these men were homeless, where did they go?
It was designed to put the black woman out.
Mm,
But okay.
no, no, no. So what happened in the early beginning stages? Because people like to make the argument when I say like in social media, like Light was saying, in social media they like to pick this small window, like right after the crack era, and talk about like the effects of it today. They never want to actually look at the ingredients that went into the pot that made the dish that we're eating today, because Job Corps, all those work programs were made as the solution to get people off of welfare. Again, welfare was never designed just for us. We were just labeled the the people abusing it. You know, the welfare queen and all of that. We were just deemed the people that were abusing it. So we got to stop these black people from abusing the system. So, we're going to help them out. We're going to create jobs, training, and Job Corps. And as I wrote in the video, that worked for the black men that had educations, but for the ones that with the underfunded, segregated schools, all of that, it didn't work. It was a mirage for it. Was so they had to do what they had to do, and a lot of times what they did is they say, "Look, baby, they closed the factory right here. I'm finna go over here to Jacksonville because they got a new factory they just built out there. I'm finna go down there. I'm gonna get a job and I'm gonna send you money." Now, in a lot of cases, that was what they did. But I'm gonna just be 100% transparent. While he was living in Jacksonville, he would meet him a woman and have some more babies.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So it created this this chain that we live in now today.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, well, even with white families, when the welfare system was actually geared for them in the beginning, their husbands would be gone on war and different things like that. But that seemed to have been more glamorized and understood, right? Because yeah, the husband's out there getting money for the family and stuff. So it's expected to see the white mom home by herself with the kids and all that stuff. But it seems to be demonized when it's a black woman and a black man. And it's the same reasons he had to leave or migrate to feed his family.
They never tell the story of the missing black men. Time Life magazine actually did a piece on it. Um, the men that went to Vietnam War. I mean, there's so much, and the echo chamber today is so loud,
Mm-hmm.
right? That men who actually have taken time to dig deeper into this, or even women, is so much of they're the majority, but it seems like the echo chamber of the negative is so loud that people can't hear people like myself and Timothy is and stuff like that because for a long time I've been saying, listen, I still have the question of where they went when in the 1950s and 60s America thought they had all but cured homelessness. And when you look at it, the ones who were mainly homeless were white men
Right.
down in Skid Row, down in
The reason,
Bowery here in New York. So
Right.
it's like all of these men feel like they were put out the house. This is
the
the
narrative.
story that right that they're telling now,
Mhm.
but it's not true because
And
again, you saw a movie. They
So
like
my
to bring up
question is,
Claudine. They
where did
like to bring up Claudine,
where does this notion come
and and
from?
Claudine shows you that no, they weren't putting these men out the house. They were just hiding
they
them.
was hiding them.
It
Right.
was
They was
Yeah,
hiding them.
yeah, I just don't see women as a whole leaving good men and good relationships
for
for
dollars and food stamps.
that part. Like it just don't
But
make sense.
it makes me question, where did these people get this notion from? Like when you hear these men in these social media areas hollering at the rooftop, "You black women, you ruin the community, you kick the man out for food." Where did
Yeah.
you get this from? Because as a
That
Well,
child,
the easy
but that
because the
narrative,
easiest thing to believe is that narrative because they
right?
really don't have an answer. And to be honest with you, the majority of them don't speak to their elders. They don't want to do they don't want to do the research. They don't want to hear any of that. That is something that for those that scream it and yell it the loudest, that's the easiest thing for them to say.
right?
Oh
But
yeah, y'all didn't
No,
want to see it because
see,
it's anything. You got to remember, it's anything to blame that black woman because they don't have the answers to what's really going on in our community or what really happened to our community. So the
that's why
easiest thing for them to do is blame us
They
as
don't
black
take
women.
that's
accountability
the
for
who,
that's
anything.
the
told them that
Moynihan's
story
report. The
to run
Moynihan
with.
report was. I'm sorry.
Who told them the story to run with is what I'm asking. It
Oh,
wasn't a mom.
that's
Can
what I'm getting
I
ready
answer?
to say. So it was the Moynihan report itself that
Hmm.
was used to perpetuate that narrative.
Gotcha.
Moynihan, he called it a pathology, a mindset. Like this is how they think. This is how
Hmm.
they move. And in I have the report, and in the report it says what he says, but they kind of picked what they wanted out of
Yeah.
the report to use, because the report says that there was a large amount of women that had men out of their home, and then it says they were out of the home for more than just being put out in divorce. Some of them were displaced because of work, like basically what I'll put in the video. Like, so the Moynihan report itself was used as a weapon to fuel this welfare queen narrative.
Mm.
Mm.
That's what Reagan did.
Because
Right.
it was nothing more than an experiment. It was a science experiment for the pale man, and
Right.
we are discussing his experiment.
Hmm.
Well, it's interesting you said that, Ivory, because Moynihan actually studied the Irish because it happened with them first. And that's how he was able to come up with this whole report because it had already happened with the Irish. And I
Right.
think
It's
that's a.
just studying different groups of people. But
Mhm.
when I was watching the video, I was getting nothing but a experiment from them interviewing the people. Like everything that came along with it's just an experiment.
They're always experimenting on us.
And
It's
It's
absolutely,
medically,
it's
it's
absolutely
economically, they're always doing that to us.
something I wanted to point out that I guess we'll touch on later, Timothy, is in another video, is that they always go back to this no fault divorce thing, right? But at the same time as no fault divorce was happening, the end of shotgun weddings were happening. So
the
that's
no fault divorce. That's actually a video I'm working on in the background now that touches on shotgun marriages and how it influenced the policy for no fault divorces, and how that also gets used as a narrative to say, women break up the home. Look at the divorce rates at 70-80%, always initiated by the women. But it's like, again, like I just mentioned with the Moynihan report and how the current state of the black family is today. No, everyone wants to look at the finished meal and not look at
The
the
preparation.
ingredients that went to make this meal. Because even with the no fault divorce, like, um, shotgun marriages created as many probably more unhealthy households than they did healthy ones. Because let's just be honest, we're all,
Agree.
of sound mind, and we understand that if you were 15 and you was, being sneaky and hot in the ass and got pregnant, and your little boyfriend was 15, neither one of y'all was ready to get married.
Nope.
Neither y'all wanted to get married. Y'all was scared. But you're gonna make a legit, and that's another thing for the men that always want to make the narrative that it's the woman's fault. When the fathers were present, it was the fathers saying, "You gonna marry in my daughter and make my daughter a legitimate woman." It was
Mm.
the men forcing the marriages, and those fathers came and did that, and now you have two individuals getting married that may not even really like each other. They kids, they just might have messed around and got pregnant. Now boom, they're in a relationship that they don't want to be in, and that leads to an entire relationship built in resentment. Because here, and that messes the kids up because now
Mhm.
you got two parents that resent their kids because had your little ass not been born, I wouldn't have had to be stuck with this
Mhm.
motherfucker. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And
Mhm.
they get the beating on them kids. Then they fighting, the kids watching them fight, and kids are sponges. They grow up and this is what they see, and then they believe, oh well, this is what a household is supposed to be.
Right.
Then they go
Mhm.
to school and they talk to their friends, and their friends got the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, my father used to hit my mother. I come from that, so I get it. I lived it firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this kind of bleeds in because we all 70s and 80s. We lived through the crack era. We're gonna get to that, but yeah, but that's another thing that led to those no fault divorces is that a lot of women and the men, they just don't talk about the men. A lot of women and men wanted to get out of those unions because they never want to be in the first place. The only pushback that a lot of the men got from it is because of the responsibility that was attached to alimony and child support. And that's an argument they still fight and complain about today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why that's even like
Old
a
enough
big
to
deal
get
because
divorced, they should be married. Old enough to procreate, they old enough to be married. You know what you was doing. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, but I just think that you can't force people to be in a relationship and you're creating toxic environments for children. I get what
Mhm.
you're saying. I understand what you're saying fully, Ivory, but if it's going to be a toxic environment for children, that's not good for children.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
the overratedness of two parent homes come from because it's like if you watching both your parents fight and bicker and beat each other up every day, like what good is it to have two parents in the home? You see what I'm saying? So
And not only that, just because father's not in the home does not mean the child doesn't have two parents. Like
exactly
a healthy co-parenting relationship is better than a toxic relationship or marriage or whatever.
right.
And then
Because
when you,
now let's just be honest. Now you go to jail now fighting in front of your kids. I know in Florida you can't even cuss in front of your kids. In Florida
Florida?
you can't even smoke cigarettes in your car with your kids in
Oh
there.
yeah, I know
So
that.
yeah, it's like it's things are being brought to the attention of these agencies and stuff to where that's toxic for children and it's affecting children. I mean, like Tim said, they're sponges. They know y'all don't like each other. Kids know more and see more than we think they do and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So
the
yeah,
whole
It's gonna
cigarette
be a
thing is
cycle.
wild because even here, if you have to take your child to the hospital and there's anything that identifies secondhand smoke, you can be arrested,
yeah.
or if not, social services is called. So,
Hmm.
and I think that's cool because we came up, we was a generation of kids. They smoke cigarettes in the same room as us.
And blew the smoke in your face.
Well, I didn't experience all that, but
No, but
yes,
they did.
it
Like they
happened. It did
did. They
happen.
they
Yeah.
smoked cigarettes. They still, and I mean that might have even been up into the '90s when then parents started understanding. Okay, this secondhand smoke is not good for my kids. But
Hmm.
yeah, but I can't wait to get into the second part of this thing with Tim because another thing that they don't talk about is that the with the start of the crack era, it even brought the marriage rate down even more. It made it decline even more. So this whole everything it's the woman's fault. It's the woman's fault.
It's crazy.
Mm-mm.
Also, just because statistics ain't even right for real anyway. Because just because they're not married, it doesn't necessarily mean there isn't a two-parent household. People are cohabitating and not married with their
Right.
children. It's still
See, and a
considered
lot of
They
single
think
moms.
being a single mother is supposed to
a
hurt
That
some.
lot
whole
of
category
a
needs to
lot
be
of the
revamped because
statistics,
my relationship status
statistics
should
skewed.
not depend on my parenting status. Me being single or not has nothing to do with me being a parent. Like my kids have two parents.
Well,
Well,
single
So
parent means nothing.
statistics get
You're just not
skewed.
married in for a
They
tax
skewed
bracket.
us. They skewed it. My voice, y'all know I got my teeth pulled. They skewed. Damn.
Skewed.
They
I like
skewed
puberty.
people skew the statistics purposely to make their point. I gotta change my voice like this. They
That's
they they manipulate the stats purposely to make an argument for the purpose of talking points.
right.
So,
Yeah.
you'll hear the talking point made that, you know, uh black only one in four black women to get married. But when you look at the statistics are broken down into age brackets, you
Mhm.
know, and the age bracket from 18 to 24, yes, they're not getting married. They kids. But when you look at the
Mhm.
age bracket from 35 to 55 plus, they get married at an 80%. You know,
Mhm.
so same with the what Sunday was just talking about with the involved parent. The statistics show that of all fathers of every racial demographic, black men are the most involved fathers. So that goes. So the whole narrative of they don't want to take care of their kid. They don't want to. Black men are the most active and most co-parent Mickey Fickies in the game.
But I think also, Timothy, is I think that
And step parents.
when you talk about that, right, I think we need to be listening sometimes because we know a bunch of women who these fathers aren't around. So we need to be listening. We need to be understanding both sides of the narrative, right? Because I mean, it just is what it is. Now, today, I'm starting to see the younger boys, like, 19, 20, 21, maybe 25. They are more involved. They are definitely involved. I see them. They be having one baby to the chest, strapped to the chest, the other one in the stroller, or
Mhm.
they picking them up from school, or they're taking them to school. Like these younger guys are actually, because they came from damn near two generations of fathers who basically disappeared either through death or incarceration. So they don't want to be the same way with their children. And
There's that, and then they also, like you said, they're two generations in of being conditioned to believe that child support and all of that is such a burden and a hindrance. So they like, I don't want child support, so I just okay, let me get the baby.
you
And
think so? Because a lot of them are going to court and putting themselves on child support before the mother can do it.
oh, okay, well, yeah, well, you talking about like the 1920? You talking about this brand new generation?
Right, that's what I was talking about.
Okay,
This brand new generation
okay,
of
you're
young
not talking. Okay, I'm talking about the dudes that's like, I don't want to pay child support, give me the baby, and then go drop the baby off at grandma's
Which
house.
is crazy. That's
At the
pure
mama house.
bitterness.
Exactly. It's crazy.
Okay, so we talking about two different people. Yep. So y'all want to touch on this more? Y'all want to go on to the next video?
Let's get the next video going.
All right, Ivory, go ahead and share the screen, please. Miss Ivory.
Have a scale.
Since
All right,
Ivory got jumped out the womb with a scale.
right, because mute up so the video will be clear, please.
When you take a look at the modern landscape of the black community, you will see a series of normalized tragedies. You see the single mother household not as a problem, but as a now normalized standard. You see the absentee father not as a missing part of the family, but as a statistical expectation. You see a multi-billion-dollar rap industry that glamorizes the very drug blocks and gang wars that took fathers and sons out our neighborhoods. To the people outside looking in, this looks like a cultural choice. It looks like a community that simply stopped valuing the stable nuclear family. But that is the ultimate deception. What looks like a current problem is actually the toxic, long-lasting aftermath of a war that started 60 years ago. And it is still damaging both the people's health and their communities today. The comfort with fatherless homes, the acceptance of the hustle, and the trauma bonding of the streets are the survival mechanisms of a people who were chemically and legally targeted. We are living in the legacy of the crack era, but that era did not start in the 80s. It started in the jungles of Vietnam. To understand why the black family is in its current state, We have to go back to the moment the American government turned the black soldier into a drug addict and the black neighborhood into a profit center for the deep state. The dismantling began in Southeast Asia. During the Vietnam War, the United States military operated as a state-sanctioned drug distributor. This was the first wave of trauma. To keep black soldiers functioning in a war many did not believe in, the Department of Defense issued over 225 million tablets of Dexedrine and other stimulants between 1966 and 1969. These were high-potency pep pills designed to override the human need for sleep and the human instinct of fear. When the soldiers crashed, the military handed out barbiturates to bring them down. By the time high-purity heroin appeared in the Golden Triangle, the American soldier was already a chemical slave. The CIA, through its shadow airline Air America, provided the logistics for the opium trade to flourish, supporting anti-communist warlords like Vang Pao. While the soldiers were in the foxholes, the CIA was ensuring the poppies were harvested and refined. By 1971, 15% of U.S. servicemen were addicted to heroin. When these men returned home, they did not return to the provider role. They returned as broken, addicted men to cities like New York and Chicago that were already being stripped of industrial jobs. The 1970s heroin epidemic, fueled by kingpins like Frank Lucas and his cadaver connection, was the testing ground. Lucas bypassed the mafia and used military channels to bring blue magic heroin directly into Harlem. This was the era that first institutionalized the missing man. The Vietnam vet father, suffering from PTSD and a drug habit he picked up in the service, became the first generation to be pushed into the shadows. Under the Housing Authority policy, a mother could only keep her public housing only if no able-bodied male lived in the home. This forced black men to become ghosts. They lived in the basements or the shadows, slipping in at night to see their children, while social workers conducted midnight raids to ensure no man was present. The government made the father's presence a financial death sentence for the family. The 1970s heroin crisis gave the state the excuse to declare the first war on drugs, turning police departments into occupying armies. As the 1980s arrived, the heroin market was replaced by the crack explosion. This was the most concentrated assault on the black family in history. The CIA, needing to fund the Contra rebels in Nicaragua after Congress cut off their funding, utilized traffickers like Oscar Danilo Blandon. Blandon flooded Los Angeles with cheap cocaine, which was then funneled to Freeway Ricky Ross. Crack was the perfect weapon of mass destruction for the family. Unlike heroin, which sedated the user, crack was a hyperstimulant. It created an immediate short-term rush that required constant, desperate need for money to sustain. It brought women into the drug trade and drug use in record numbers, leading to the mass expansion of the foster care system. The Crips and the Bloods, once neighborhood sets, became militarized franchises. They followed the interstate highways to the Midwest and the South, bringing the LA gang model to every city. The father was now either a dealer, a victim, or a prisoner. While the drugs flowed in, the politicians hammered the doors shut. In 1986, House Speaker Tip O'Neill and Senator Joe Biden pushed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act. They created the 100-to-1 sentencing disparity. If a black youth was caught with 5 grams of crack, he got 5 years. If a white professional had 500 grams of powder, he got the same. This was not a mistake. It was a filter designed to remove black men from society. In 1994, Bill Clinton signed the largest crime bill in the history of the United States at the time. It provided $10 billion for prisons and ended Pell Grants for inmates. It introduced the 3 strikes rule and truth in sentencing, which mandated that men serve 85% of their time. Parole was effectively dead. At the same time, the 1 strike and you're out housing policy meant that if a son was caught with a rock of crack, his mother and siblings were evicted. Mothers were forced to choose between their sons and their shelter. This is where the 18-year-old sacrifice became law. The current state of the black community is the result of these compounded traumas. The comfort with single-mother households is not a lack of values. It is the scar tissue of 3 generations of men being systematically removed by war, drugs, and prison. The gang culture we see today is the evolution of young men seeking the protection and brotherhood that the state-sanctioned removal of their fathers denied them. Even the music changed. The soul and funk of the 70s, which spoke of love and revolution, was replaced by a rap culture that by the late 90s was increasingly funded by the same corporate interests that benefit from the prison industrial complex. The hustle became the new religion because the legal economy had been closed to anyone with a felony record, a record that the 1986 and 1994 bills made nearly inevitable for young black men. The black family did not collapse. It was dismantled piece by piece by a government that provided the drugs, militarized the police, and built the prisons. Today's statistics are not a reflection of black culture. They are the final report on a 60-year experiment in social destruction. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe and leave a comment.
There
Yep.
you have it.
And here we are today, right?
Here we are today.
Right.
Picking up
So
the pieces.
again, right.
And
So
can I
again, like,
just say that and what they dismantled the family, the black family, and now they're doing everything in their power to make sure that we do not unite and get back together. These the current gender war and the black men versus black women kind of situation and all the finger pointing, that's done purposely.
yep.
It's purposely done
And
so that we can start hating each other. It's all part of the larger plan. And a lot of us do not see that.
yep.
These Caucasians is not dumb. I'm just going to be honest with you. They're
I'm
doing
working on
exactly the things that they need to do.
I'm working on 2 videos right now, Miss Paula, that break that down. One video is gonna be how the government used the conflict between black men and black women to weaken the civil rights movement.
Hmm.
And then I'm gonna make a video to show how the black man actually fell for the trick. They took the bait, hook,
Hmm.
line, and sinker. And the bait they took was wanting to model our culture after the society they claimed they were protesting against, because historically we've always had an egalitarian style household, because there for black people there never was the well, I won't say never. There were only small pockets of households where the man made enough money to have a stay-at-home wife. But in a lot of states that was even against the law. The woman had to work. So for us, there wasn't no he don't want me to work, he ain't letting me work, he trying to control me. That
Hey,
was
Tim, there's some
their
feedback. There's some feedback. I don't know whose echo that is.
let's see.
Let me mine. I turned off my YouTube. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Testing 1 2.
Okay,
No, I
the
still
echo's
hear
gone.
it.
You still hear it? I don't hear
No,
it anymore.
not no more. Okay. Yeah. So I forgot, where was I?
Oh, talking
About
about us pick up where we always had to work.
Yeah. So for that goes back whether you want to believe it or adhere to this narrative or not, but that go all the way back to slavery. The black man and black women was in the field side by side. When we came out of slavery through Reconstruction, and we was being paid pennies because there wasn't no minimum wage, so we had to have both people work just to make the amount of one white woman that was underpaid. So it take 2 of us to make the same amount of money as the underpaid white woman gets made.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So we've been fighting to climb that ladder even to this day. If you look at the statistics to this day, the median income for single black men and single black women is $5,000 to $10,000 less than single white men and single white women. So the whole narrative of of I don't need a man and all that the way that it gets spun, because the intent behind it, the need versus want a man thing, get spun into the narrative of, well, you don't need a man. I ain't gonna do shit for you. See, that's
Right.
that's the corny part.
Yeah, because they never say, because I remember when that started, right? And when it started, it wasn't us saying that we didn't need a man in the way that they're trying to state we did. What we basically were saying at the time was, I don't need a man to help me financially. I don't need a man. I want a man. I'm doing what I have to do for me, and I'm handling me and mine. I don't need him, but I want him, and that's the part that they never speak about. That part has gone by the wayside. So they were able to create from just that first part. They create a narrative that we don't that we're not that we don't want men. We don't want black men. We don't want black. We That's not exactly what it was about.
Right. Because at one
What
point
we
we
were
said
based
we needed men to survive. Like I said.
Exactly, basically what it was what we were saying is those the oppression that we had, those oppressive um the oppressive ideals that we had to deal with. We weren't able to own property. We weren't able to do this. They don't understand that what that really meant. We were really at we really had no choice but to put everything with our husbands at a time in history. And now we were saying, oh my God, I'm able to do these things for myself. So we're evolving, right? We're evolving. So the problem is a lot of men wanted to continue in that vein. They wanted to continue to be the ones in charge. They wanted to be the ones in control, and they don't know how to release that and let that go. They wanted to stay back the way we were in the '60s or the end of the '60s. It's not like that anymore. Then they talk about, oh, I want a woman like my grandma. Listen, your grandmother was the way she had. Not every grandmother was like this, but quite a few of them had no choice but to be in those relationships and to be married and stay in those marriages back then. They had no choice
Right.
because
And
they were
and
not able, they had nowhere to go. If she had 5 kids, who was going to take in a woman with 5 kids?
right. And that's a narrative they still try to push on today, talking about single mothers and all of that. But uh Light and I talk about this all the time, and I'm one of those the few men that actually keep it real. And to those men that be talking about, see, we need them to go back to our grandmother's day and all that. Man, grandmama wasn't innocent, just like granddaddy wasn't innocent. They was people. They were human beings. The same way, like I mentioned earlier, when I was talking about how the factories closed and the men would go, well, look, baby, go down to the county office. I'm gonna go out here to Jacksonville and try to get a job and see. I send you some money back. And while he was out in Jacksonville, he met him a woman and he had some kids. Well, guess what? While he was gone, you know what grandmama was at home doing? Busting it open.
Popping that coochie, popping that coochie.
He
Grandma
was
was busting it
right.
was smooth
And
open.
right. And he came when he finally came back from Jacksonville, he came back to kids that wasn't his. And you know what he did? You know how the cloth that granddaddy was cut from, that you not cut from? He was a stepdaddy to them kids. And he
Yep.
raised them kids like they was his own kid. A lot of them he gave his name.
Yep.
And a lot of them said, you don't call that man and ask him for nothing. These is my kids.
Yep. Sure
So
did.
that's the cloth that granddaddy was cut from, that you don't want to be cut from, but you're trying to idolize this image that you created of grandma. That grandma was, oh, she was sweet and she stayed home and cooked and clean and she bowed down to grandpa. Grandpa was the man of the house. You know why grandpa was the man of the house? Because he took care of them. He took care of the house
Yep.
despite who was in the house, whether them kids were his or not. Because a lot of time he brought kids with him from when he from that woman ran off and left them kids on it. That's a lot of times why they came back from
Mm,
Jacksonville or wherever it was at. Because we were just talking about that movie Fences when
Mhm.
Denzel came home with the baby. Look,
yep.
this baby is innocent. This baby don't know nothing about no grown folk business. Don't
Little
know
baby
nothing about no grown folk business. This is a baby that need a mama. And
Right.
she took that baby and said, okay, this baby got her a mama, but you a man that ain't got no woman.
Mhm.
And did she divorce him for everybody that said that they left and pushed him out in divorce rates?
Nope.
No. Grandma stayed. Y'all better know what y'all talking about when y'all make these
Sure
topics.
did.
They
Cause
don't.
this,
They don't
They're
know
not.
what they're talking about. They don't. They don't know. Like Ivory said, this was 60 years of an experiment, and
Mhm.
at some point, you know, when we talk about the civil rights movement, when we talk about the civil rights movement, black women were pulled in two directions. It was either you're a woman or you're black. Which one? You can't have both. You can't be a woman and you can't be black. But
Right.
women were fighting for their own autonomy. Women were fighting for the right to do certain things. Like a woman couldn't have a bank account or credit up until 1973. New York was the first state that allowed it. That's why lady, the hair lady, the perm lady, Madam C.J. Walker. She left from where she was and came to New York because her husband had took her whole fortune and there was nothing she could do about it.
that was the whole reason she was called Madam C.J. Walker. Her name was C.J. Walker. Back then everything had to be in her husband's name. But I want to what she just talked about with the black first thing. I'm gonna pull up some quotes right here. Y'all want me to put it on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, we do that.
And I want to say something while you do that. Um, the young folks, the YGs and the YNs are bringing back the sister wives. So like most of our moms was sister wives and everything,
Mm.
and kids are like proud sister wives. It's weird.
Mm.
Let me
They
see
might
if I.
even
I
young.
think they come to the I think they come to the realization
Mhm,
that with the rate of incarceration,
mhm.
the rate of death, and the rate of homosexuality, I think they just feel like you're gonna share the man anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to share the man knowingly than unknowingly. I kind of understand it. Not that I can be a part of it, but I understand it, and I think that's probably what they're thinking. And maybe we should talk to some younger people and see why they are going back into adopting this mindset.
Mhm.
Letting me zoom in for some reason.
I feel like they convince people that it ain't enough men to go around.
There we go.
Well, I
All right.
mean,
Part of it.
we just had a study, right? That it said what 48% of the men are gay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
we
They
just
don't
had
take
a
that into
very
account.
interesting conversation about that today, didn't we?
Yeah.
All
We're
right.
losing
So,
our men
so this
to
is from
men's asses.
Strongburn Institute, where they were talking about. Here's some citations of how they pushed the black first. So the warrior versus the queen rhetoric, and these are quotes in the 1960s. Many leaders of the Black Power movement used language like returning to tradition to justify the subjugation of women. And
Mm.
here go, I can't pronounce this person's name. It's the founder of Kwanzaa. So the dude that made up Kwanzaa. What makes a woman appealing is femininity, and she can't be feminine without being submissive.
Okay.
And this go back to 1960. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of this rhetoric is not new, not at all. Uh, Amiri Baka, we have we help the black man by being his helper. We are his inspiration and his comfort, but never his equal in the struggle for leadership. Like they've been arguing this for years. 1967 Black Power Conference. Uh, what is this? The revolution was repurposed to promote black family growth, essentially urged black women to stop giving birth control and focus on breeding for revolutions. That's what the men were saying. Y'all need to stop taking birth control and start breeding, having soldiers. We need more soldiers.
That's
No.
crazy.
Yeah, Michelle Wallace was in
No,
1978.
don't skip past that. I want you to see that the script connection.
Okay,
This
this
highlights debate. The government wanted the movement to focus on controlling women's bodies rather than dismantling the state. Men
right.
took the bait, believing that power meant controlling the
The womb. Yep. Yep. And it goes on and on. Oh, they use the church, Ephesians. They used the church during
Wives.
this era. The black male ministries increasingly leaned on Episcopals. Wives submit yourselves to your own husband. Mhm. They framed the strong black woman not as a survivor of slavery and Jim Crow, but as a Jezebel figure that was destroying the black man's ability to lead. They used the pulpit to say that the only way to get to God's blessings for the movement was to put the family in order, putting the man at the head. Yeah, so
The three-way hijack.
What a sad mindset to have.
where we at? Y'all don't see us on the screen? Am I tripping?
No.
I don't see us.
No, I don't see us on the screen at all.
What you did, Ivory? You done something.
There we go.
You on mute. You talking, you on mute, Miss Ivory.
Oh, I said I had zoomed in on your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I got a video on that coming. I got a video on how everything that was just mentioned in Stromberg was used and weaponized to turn the men again. Like the crazy thing in these last few weeks that I've been putting these videos together, what it was glaring for me personally, because I'm reading it. What's glaring for me is that the gender war was hijacked from black women by white women. The whole wanting to be autonomous because they wanted to, believe it or not, they had white women that were envious of black women because they felt like black women had room in their relationships that white women didn't have in theirs. You know, and this is just them from being on the outside looking in, like, well, she cussing her man out in public, and and she get to do it, and she running things, and she get to go to work, and they looking on the outside looking in, so they're not knowing that there's a lot of the same issues because that man may or may not be abusive to her as well. So, but once they linked together and got the movement going, that's when they said, well, boom, boom, bang, and then they got the whole CIA involvement. That's a whole nother thing, though. But the whole thing of it is that when the gender war itself was created, its initial focus was to break the black family because J. Edgar Hoover and somebody else, they had made a whole Centro Pro team, and their whole thing is the greatest threat to American security is the unification of the black community. And so huh?
I think somebody in
Somebody's
the
background.
background. But yeah, Timothy, is you 100% right. And then when we got, so heroin was the only drug that took the father out of the house, right? But crack came in
It took both.
both parents, and crack was like overnight, like literally overnight, like overnight. I was there for it. I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw the
Remember,
community.
crack was freebase at first. That's what it was originally from. Remember, it was freebase, and they would cook it up, and and then it started like it caught on, and it was like a match to wood, to dry
Well,
wood.
the
It
freebase,
just exploded.
the freebase was something totally different. It was different than crack. The freebase didn't have the same level of addiction that
Right,
crack.
because it was a. You know what I found out later on? The difference in the two was there was a bleaching agent that was added to crack that made it crystallize, where freebase didn't have that bleaching agent. Do you know that that's one of the things that they used to convict a lot of the black men that were convicted for selling crack because of that one ingredient. Don't ask me the name of it because I don't remember. I heard this years ago, and that is why they ended up with the sentences that they had and being in jail for it because it was that one bleaching agent, and that agent was what created the addiction. It was what facilitated the use, the crack use. It
because
made because it, remember, it was a that's a fast high for them. Like they get it, they smoke it, and not even 10 minutes later, they out trying to get the money together to go get high again.
well, that
It
was
was
the thing.
because of that.
They were always chasing that first high because no high
Is
was
this
like the first one. But Paula, I don't know if you guys know, the big addiction was in Colombia first. They were addicted to crack in Colombia way before we got it here in America because they were the ones who created it.
Now that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. You can look that up. Historical fact. They were addicted to crack in Colombia. They created it. Yeah.
Shaking my head.
So this was, listen.
this is a serious operation they got on this black son.
Yo, it
Mhm.
just because the government, listen, the government was all in it,
Of
all
course.
in it, all in it.
I mean,
Okay, they
See,
Vietnam,
the
had their
thing,
they
hands
had
in
to open
everything.
it.
you see,
Yeah,
the thing is,
and it was facilitated consistently. And think about it, they dropped all this shit in our communities because I want to say something, and this is something that you would hear plenty of people say. How would we have access to the type of firepower that was needed when we had these gang wars in the street and the drug wars in the street and people and these people were killing each other? Where we get the guns from? How
Well,
are
I
we
know in
importing these drugs?
I
How
know
was
in
we able to?
Compton, the
How,
government literally put the guns on the railroad tracks. I know that because
yes,
George Bush's lived in Compton at one point. So
yes.
that
Right.
that's not
How
really
do
talked about too much.
Getting the black
Chicago
no?
the
How
same
did we
thing.
get? How did these drugs get into this country so easily? Because they were coming in easily
What are we
through
talking
the
about? The
military.
Iran Contra war.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what I'm
ma'am.
trying to say.
What you
Like,
say,
but
Ivory?
blacks have to take accountability because they put it in your community don't mean use it. And
exactly.
the black men try to model themselves after the white man. Cocaine is known as a white man's high, a rich white man's high. So the fact that the white man do it, the black men want to do it. And that's why they can't put it down because
Well,
they model
It's true.
themselves after the white man.
well, you got to think a lot of so
That's
because
one
they
aspect.
sold heroin in our community, our that generation they had the money to get high on cocaine. They had it. So people be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, black people didn't use cocaine because they couldn't afford it." Oh, yes, they could.
yeah, that was Nikki. That's what Nikki
Nicky
Barnes and
Barr.
Frank Lucas
Frank
they was
Lucas,
playing it.
but
They was
Yes.
yeah, they was
more.
selling
Yes,
hard.
and you also
But
yes, and you also have to look at the regions because you know
Because
that
the black man is
there's
never
regional drugs. So each region had their own specific type of drug that they use. Because from my understanding, cocaine was a southern drug. They use that more in
Ivy,
the
check your
south.
phone.
mm-mm. But you know,
that started
Frank
in New
Matthews,
York.
Check
Nikki
your phone,
Barnes,
Ivy, please.
Nikki Barnes, and Frank Lucas don't have nothing on Frank Matthews. However, you got Coke that was in the Coke. They put cocaine in Coke and sodas. Let's not
Yeah,
forget
Coca
that.
Cola back in the early
That's why it was called
1900s.
Coke. You see
Yeah,
what I mean?
because
So I
remember cocaine technically was it was actually a pharmaceutical drug that they used for dental procedures because of the numbing effects of it. They used to
right,
use that when they had to do dental work. And
keep it
then
in.
they created Coca-Cola, like you said, and they derived it and put it and made it so that it could be in the soda. So
Well, that
early
had to do with
19s, like 1900s, they actually had cocaine in the what you call. They actually had cocaine in the soda, which is fucking retarded, but yeah. And it was acceptable because back then they didn't have the regulations that they have now regarding drugs. So the legalization thing was going on with marijuana. Do you know what that came from? And it's, when I tell you, you're gonna be like, "What?" It was because of hemp. The big companies back then, right, did not. They felt that the fibers that they use for paper regular paper, writing paper, paper period, they had an issue with that with the use of hemp because it was easier to get, it was easier to use, it was more sustainable. And because hemp is associated with marijuana, what they ended up doing
Right.
was they lobbied into the government to have hemp, i.e., marijuana, because that was the uses that they made back then between that and what you call it, and that was
Rope.
they broke it and they were able to make marijuana illegal because of this derivative.
Right.
And then
And
they scared the shit out of everybody with movies like fucking Reefer Madness, which was
the
insane.
Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation.
Yes.
Versus Black.
Did you ever? I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen Reefer Madness. I saw that movie on a humble one time. It's the craziest damn movie because you sitting there looking at them going, "What the hell was y'all smoking back then?" Because whatever y'all was smoking back then is not what we smoking now. Because this shit
Yeah.
literally had them going fucking. But like when I tell you bugging out, I said, y'all, I don't know what y'all was smoking because when we smoke weed and either we laugh or we want to go to sleep or we want to eat. The fuck y'all was
Right.
that? I'm
And then
going.
you,
These white folks was losing it,
well, like
smoking
Birth
weed.
of a Nation, with Birth of a Nation, they actually framed it, and this is how they really pushed it because in Birth of the original Birth of a Nation movie, they had they were wearing blackface, and they made it to where that when they what's the word, they created the narrative that if when black men smoke, it's what drove us insane to want to, sexually assault white women and kill white women and all that unalive. It basically said all of these black men that you see standing around smoking this stuff, they're animals waiting to pounce. That type of, and like she said, it was all because of hemp, because hemp was the back then the number one way to ship anything was across the ocean, and somebody else figured out how to make rope differently than with the hemp, and they wanted to put the hemp out of business, so they made the hemp. They had to make the hemp illegal. How to make the hemp illegal? By making the marijuana illegal.
I just wanted to kind of reel back to your video. Um, I would like to know what was in, because I really feel like whatever was in this crack, it made women very fertile. Because if you notice, there was a boom of babies born during that era. Just from my own community, you would see these women would be having like up to 10, 12 kids, but the family could take about five of them, but then the other ones went into the system. I just be trying to figure it out. I always think it's baking soda, something, whatever chemical agent was in that baking soda kind of played a part in the not only the addiction but also the fertility of women. I don't know.
Tennessee, they just high and inhibitions lowered and weren't preventing it
So,
like they
I mean, that's possible, right? That could have played a part, but the way these women were having babies after baby after baby after baby, I feel like there was some type of chemical, whatever's in that baking soda. And when I started thinking that, I started thinking that when the dude made that song, Baking Soda, I got baking soda. I'm like, could it have been whatever chemical agent was in the baking soda? That's just my theory. I'm not asking. But I
Can we
think,
talk about the crack babies and the crack grandbabies too while we on
well,
this subject?
yeah, I mean, we probably could, but I was just like trying to go through Timothy's video instead of skipping, like jumping from place to place. But yeah, we got to think about today. We got to think about how for two generations, maybe even almost three, depending on what you count as a generation, you have fathers not there, right? Whether it was death or incarceration that took
How does
them
that
out of the home,
mean that it's affecting someone talking?
and it took them out of the home. I don't know.
Whose background is that?
I don't know. But it took them out of the home,
Yeah,
and
I'm on mute.
you had you had two to three generations of children kind of raising themselves. So when you want to ask the question about how these girls don't know how to cook or how they don't know how to do certain things, you got to look at These kids, because the mother and the father was out of the house, they had to raise themselves. Some of them at 12 years old, 13 years old, had to be responsible for their siblings, trying to keep their siblings out of the system. There's a whole bunch of nuances that go along with this. And every time we get to this conversation about the gender war, everybody wants to skip over the crack era when it is the pivotal point of what actually what we're looking at now. People are still bouncing back right now, and they're
Well,
bringing it back.
well,
So,
that's what I was saying earlier, Light, is that the deeper I've been diving these deep dives I'm doing, it it's like the whole gender war was used specifically to target us to because the government's goal was to try to stop. They thought they were going to use that to stop the civil rights movement, but but that didn't work because the Civil Rights Act still passed, the Voting Act still passed, but what was actually they did succeed at it is putting a crack in the framework of the black family,
mhm.
and
First,
over time it bled over to everybody, but just I'm not in other people universe in these spaces. So just for me being a black man looking at the black community, I think it's most evident in our community because it was design design. So I'm sorry, I got the hiccups. Side effecting my medication gives me the hiccups. The the design was targeted directly at us, which is why you see this, excuse me, this manosphere and all of that mostly in our community.
but the manosphere and the men going your own way and all of this stuff, these are white organizations that black men follow. Like they try to say we followed the feminist movement, which is bullshit. If they excuse my language, if they go and do some history, they would see that these women absolutely attached themselves to what we were fighting for. But
Yep, some black women.
these manosphere and this men going your own way and all of this stuff. These were white organizations that black men follow. These white men had an issue with their women as well.
I say this all the time, and people get mad at me, but it seems like
You gotta fix your headphone. Whatever you got going on Sunday, you gotta fix it.
You gotta say whatever you said again because your sound was crazy Sunday.
my sound crazy.
No,
Repeat what you said. We can hear you now.
Background
Okay.
in the
I said
background.
that a lot of people get mad at me when I say this, but it seems like a lot of black men treat black women the way white supremacy treats them.
Yeah, I can see that.
that's on our next.
Absolutely. And they use a lot of white men talking points when it comes to dealing with black women also.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. Very much
That's
so. And one of my issues too when it comes to well, I think we discussed the wage gap, but this all ties in. Black men will sit there and be like, "Oh, you are the lowest paid people in the world." The wage disparity between black men and black women is only about $4,000 a year. But they feel like a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them feel like they are above us because of that. And I'm like, but you're comparing yourself to a woman. This whole gender war thing, like we have to stop. But now a lot of men are feeling like they're getting back. So they don't want to stop. They're doing the get back because whatever may have happened with them when they were younger, they're carrying that shit forward. And we really like in our community, we need a lot of therapy. We need a lot of communication. We need to really, really get real with ourselves with what's going on in this community. Otherwise, there will be no black family. There will be no black community. It's going to get worse
That's the
at
plan.
this point. I know, but the thing is, we're falling for it, Tim. You understand? We're
Right.
falling. We're sitting there falling for it and letting it happen. Meanwhile, and on the other side, you have women, not all women, quite a bit of women that are like, you know what? At this point, I'm tired. Like we're tired, fed up because it's so much that y'all are putting on our shoulders, and then you're sitting around and acting like, nah, like yeah, okay, whatever. Y'all ain't shit. You
You
wasn't
see, they
shit. This,
succeeded.
and
They
it's
succeeded in
really
that.
disappointing.
I just yeah, it's we gotta examine these things, right? Because we just gotta examine these things. We gotta look at it for real and not look at it from a feel good point of view. Right? We have to I see, oh, black people shouldn't do a lot of things. People shouldn't do a lot of things, but it happens. But how do we deal with it? How do we deal with this opioid crisis? Because every time that our government goes and infiltrates a country, it's always some type of drug behind it. Now they went to Afghanistan. Now we got the opioid crisis. We ain't even good fresh out of crack, and now they implemented the opioid. Now they bringing the crack back. That's
Hmm.
crazy.
But you ready for this, light? Let me tell you how things have changed. How you see things somewhat changing a little bit,
I
right?
don't see
You, I,
that
do
change.
you did you ever see that they used to play at night mainly the commercials for rehab that they used to have? There was a white doctor that used to come on. You know he was a paid actor, but they would talk about opioids, opioids, opioids. I watched how that commercial, how they changed that commercial. Because the commercial used to have maybe one black person in there, maybe one or two black persons on there, if they had any opioid commercials about it at all. Now all of a sudden, I don't know if it still comes on, but I remember seeing it. The whole commercial from beginning to the end was nothing but white people, and they played it very often, especially when I lived in Connecticut. They played it very often because now more of these drugs are starting to come into this country, but they're affecting their kids, their people, their family members now. So now they're like, oh no, we have to fight this. We have to fight this. But when it was us, they didn't give a shit.
They still
No,
And I'm gonna tell
they
you where
start right. They
they didn't
never
give a
give a
shit.
shit.
have,
They
right?
They
didn't. And you
started.
know and let me tell you, they would put these fake ass drug rehab programs, right? In the same fuck this is how this was psychological. They would put the fucking drug rehab programs in the same fucking neighborhoods where the drugs were sold. Fucking drug dealers standing outside of the fucking drug rehab programs. Every block, every day. So you go in trying to go get rehab, you come outside and these niggas is actually, yo, I'm saying, yo, let's take a walk.
I
What?
don't think the rehab was made um
Us.
for no, just period. I don't think rehab is good for addiction because
It's not.
I'm gonna tell you what really works for addiction. Them NA rooms work because these people are there to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
But
Because these other things that
one thing that I did learn is that until you as a person get sick and tired of being sick and tired,
yep.
nobody or nothing will stop you from using.
And I'm
It's
gonna
your rock bottom.
And guess what else? When they finally do get sick and tired, and they go, because this is what happens with a lot of them, and this is why their relapse happens also. They swear up and down, they go through everything, they get clean, they can be clean for years. And there's that little shit in the back of their mind that will always tell them, you could do another run. You could take another run at this. For some, that ends up being their death. Some of them will do it and they come back out of it. Some of them teeter totter in the middle. I have an aunt that went into rehab for crack. He was a crackhead. Do you want to know what her treatment was in rehab? This was her fucking acupuncture.
That works.
It didn't. It didn't do a damn thing for her, and she was scared. The worst part was she was scared of needles,
It
but
works.
it didn't do anything for her. Didn't stop it. It didn't. It was not effective. What was
Because
effective was she went away, and then when she came back, she started working NA. NA was what helped her.
that's what I said, and they works. But
Yeah,
it's
NA
like
worked her.
you in with NA and you're doing things along the line like acupuncture and stuff like that, that absolutely helps. But again, it's up to a person. It is up to them for them to say, I'm tired. I'm tired of being dirty. I'm tired of having to
Hmm.
beg for money. I'm tired of not eating. I'm tired of stealing from my family. I'm tired. You know how many people like just lost their whole family wealth where somebody's great grandmother's ring that's worth whatever is sitting in somebody's grandmother's or mother's jewelry box for $5. Like
Mhm.
that crack era was a lot, and a lot of people don't get it. They don't understand it. Maybe they didn't see the effects of it. Maybe they didn't watch it when it hit overnight. I'm gonna tell anybody who's watching this, if you want to know about crack, watch Crack. The greatest story that needs to be told. It was a thing on Netflix that really, 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 like, it was bad. I don't know. It was so bad here in New York. It was so bad. And y'all
It
want to know
was.
why us women from New York are hard and we are the way we are because we had to survive that era. And if you could survive that
Hmm.
era, you could survive any era.
Hmm. It was
Yeah,
really. It was no joke up in here. It was no joke in New York. Yo.
I think New York and Cali can give you the best stories until
Yeah.
they started going into other states. But New York
Hmm.
and Cali, they were the first two that were really hit with it.
Yeah, Cali transported the crack like the in the video. It talked about Ricky Ross, Freeway Ricky Ross.
Freeway Ricky Ross.
Yeah, he transported it. He made it nationwide.
The movie Snowfall,
It's
they even
loosely
though
based on him.
it's loosely based on him.
Yeah, it's loosely
The
based.
series.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I'm telling you, it's like, and people be like, "Oh, you can't keep using that as an excuse." To me, it's not an excuse. To me, it is a picture of what happened, why we're still in the situation that we're in, why there's so much hate for black women. Oh, y'all did this, y'all did that. But these women had to carry this community on their back after the crack era, during the
Actually,
crack era.
we've been
Black
carrying it
women
for a
had
very
to
long time.
like carry it on their back, and be and y'all and men are up here talking about, well, yeah, why are your kids and blah 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 blah. Because guess what? Timotheus has shown you that we never had the luxury of staying home. We always had to work, right? Now we got these children. This man is in prison under maybe the Rockefeller drug law or whatever, things that happen first. Now you don't really have the village no more because now the village is cracked out.
right. And
The
I was gonna
whole
say,
village is cracked out.
you can't forget that the crack era has a big
Somebody
part.
got to go on mute.
If somebody else got to go on mute. I don't know who it is, but the crack era ab- absolutely has a big stake in the destruction of the big mama.
Yep. By 1992, Big Mama was all but gone because
Right,
she done raised her kids, her grandkids, her great grandkids. She's taking the kids out of the foster care system. She was
right,
beat down. And the village, right?
right.
The village. Because
Like
when
yeah,
you, yeah, man.
in
I
the
thought,
'80s, a lot of us know people that was raised by their grandmamas because both their parents were affected by crack, whether they were crackheads or crack dealers.
right, right. It's subtle both.
Right, at the same time.
Yeah. And then when they started putting the guns in the community, that just made it even worse. Because now you got turf wars. You got all these things going on. And then like around 95, 96, they did what I learned later on was the Felix Mitchell effect, right? Cut the head off thinking it'd kill all of the crime and all of the stuff around it, but they didn't realize that it was the heads of these organizations that was keeping the crime down.
Yo.
Right, because you cut the head off, and now all the little YGs want to be the man, and they don't know the structure, so they going out killing and shooting, trying to be. I'm gonna be that guy. You gonna respect my authority, but they didn't know there was a method to it, rules, an organization. There was a plan. It was a code of
Etiquette.
conduct.
Etiquette.
Right, right. So let's bring pour it all back. Like, let me play this other video real quick. Ivor, if you could pull it up on the screen, because I want to, excuse me, I want to kind of go out on a positive get down. If you could share my screen, please, Miss Ivory. Ivory Scales.
Yes, sir.
Could you share my screen, please? Yes.
Gotcha.
All right, because yeah, I want to tie all of this back in together, but I want to end it on like a positive note.
A family doesn't have to live under one roof to raise a successful child. What matters most is that both parents show up. Co-parenting isn't just about splitting weekends or exchanging drop-offs. It's about teamwork. Even when love ends, the responsibility continues. When both parents stay involved, not just financially, but emotionally, mentally, and consistently, children benefit in every way. They feel valued. They feel supported. They do better in school, have fewer behavior issues, and grow up with a stronger sense of identity. It's not always easy, schedules clash, emotions flare, life gets messy. But showing up anyway? That's what separates broken homes from strong ones. Two parents. One goal. Raise a child who knows they're loved, seen, and guided by both mom and dad. Because when co-parenting is done right, success isn't split. It's multiplied. Please like, share, and subscribe.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, was drinking too and smoking.
I
No,
agree.
it's baby showers. This. It's all about participation, and we still have a ways to go with a lot of things with us. But I want to just say something else too. One of the things, and this is still a positive thing, but what people have to realize is we are still finding our way. We are over 400 years away from slavery, but we are still having to adjust in this country. The things that we've been through, the things we've been put through, we're still trying to fight to get ourselves together. We have to, it's not so much patience, but we have to work together. We have to still keep that unity. If we don't do that, and if we don't keep recognize that and work on bettering that, it's never gonna happen. Like we're just gonna be,
No,
this community is doomed if
I
we
just
don't.
want to correct one thing you said, because
Yes, dear.
we're not 400 years from slavery. We're
It's over.
180 years out of slavery. Slavery was only like 180 years ago. That's
Mhm.
it. So
Oh,
we like my if the records are correct, I am the third generation to be born free since slavery ended in 1865. Somebody's background is carried.
Somebody's background is loud.
Right, because my father was born in 1937. His mother was born in 1909. And if the records are correct, her father was born in like 1840 something.
Oh
So
wow.
right, so that would make me his would from him to me would be three generations born free since the ending of slavery.
And it
So
kind of depends
it's
on.
not as far back as we think it is, which is why we're still having all of these race arguments and all of this stuff now. And they have legal they still making laws. We're still going to court now to undo laws so we can wear our hair natural. Stupid, silly stuff like that that shouldn't even be a big deal. But we're so close to it that we're still fighting for those basic, what almost seem trivial freedoms. Like, because Jim Crow was what, 60, 70 years ago, 80, something like that. We ain't been out of that long.
And then
yeah, segregation and integration. You're right.
you
Mhm.
know crazy? What's so interesting about Jim Crow and Timothy is I don't know if you know about this, but during Jim Crow, when they were doing the march on Washington, you had black men out there with their picket signs talking about let us marry our
Married the
white
white
women.
women. Yep. Want to marry the white women. Yep. Absolutely.
Disgraceful.
And but that goes back to the model, like we were saying before, like what they did by fracturing the black household, meaning they fractured the relationship between the black man and the black woman. It created this divide that they have effectively made a condition to where black people don't even want to get back together. We can say it out loud and we can make videos like we're doing today. But there's a lot of people that's gonna watch this video and be like, "Oh, yep, they right. That's true. That's true. That's true." They're gonna turn it off and they're gonna go with a significant other that is an other, and and this gonna go in one ear and out the other. And it's like, and we've presented the facts. Like everything presented is written, documented record. You can go look all of this up, and it's all there. This the Centel Pro operation that they used to infiltrate the Black Panthers, the US organization. They weaponized the feminist movement to to and the black men fell for a hook, line, and sinker. Black men felt threatened by the feminist movement because they felt like what little bit of control they thought they had was in their own household was being threatened. But not even the reason they fell for it is because they didn't even realize that they had always been in an egalitarian household from the beginning because black men and black women always had to work and put their pennies together just to eat. So and fast forward to 2026 and we're it's just talking points from people that's never experienced the stuff that they claim that they want. It's people the whole shaming tactic of marry before you carry. Like, well, bro, if they if they did that, you wouldn't be born because your mother was a single mother. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like,
I think Paula, this is where I want to bring back your topic of the crack baby, right? Because I think a lot of these
Mm,
people on the internet are either special education grew up or they are the direct product of the mothers that were smoking crack and the fathers.
okay, so I feel like well my take on it is this. The a lot of the people that we're dealing with nowadays are generational. So it's the babies of the crack babies. And what the way that I look at it is what my take on it is that the issues that were created by crack in the crack babies, the addiction part, the mental illness part, the behavioral issues, all of that are things that have been passed down as a result of what they suffered. They're passing it down generationally because some of these kids, like you don't even know where this stuff comes from with them.
But Paula,
They're
some of them are
angry. They're
still crack
destructive.
babies because if you think
That's
about
what
it,
I'm.
if you from like 28 to like 40,
Hmm. Yeah,
those are still crack babies.
true. Because it was in the 80s.
Because if you was born in 85, you're like 40 right now, right? But if you was born in
Hmm.
97, you're about to be 29. And they were, it was still crack. Still was there. Like, it was still a determining factor.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I
I'm
didn't
gonna
even
be
think of it like
and
that.
I
I
was
thought of
gang
it more
banging.
generationally.
I was still gang banging it in the 90s, and I was selling crack in the 90s. So absolutely, they got children that were born in the 90s that were crack babies.
How
But
dare you?
hey, I can admit I was part of the problem, which is why you know I can speak about these things firsthand. But the overall messages that I was trying to bring in this whole presentation and bring to light is that we all, well, I ain't gonna say we, a lot of men, because men make this whole, we the man, we got to stand up and be men and hold women accountable. Well, guess what? Okay, we can hold women accountable, absolutely. But just one thing, while you're holding women accountable, do not forget to hold men accountable
Mm-hmm.
because because oh what happened?
You was on mute for real
I,
quick.
no, I didn't touch nothing. That was the somebody trying to
God,
silence me. Nah.
gods.
But no, because the thing about it is that we, everybody's to blame. Anybody that just wants to put the aim and the onus and the blame on one side is absolutely being disingenuous. The
Mm-hmm.
only way we gonna heal as this community is that everybody got to come together and say, "I was wrong. I, being men were wrong in this sense, and women were wrong in that sense." We need to sit down and have this conversation and accept each other's grievances,
Mm-hmm.
and until that happens, we're never gonna grow. Jagger Hoover and his plan to keep the black family destroyed is gonna continue as long as we can't sit down, express each other's grievances, accept each other's grievances, and move on. So the same way, like uh, the bear and the tree shit, this and the excuse me, the same way women can say, "Hey, the reason why this argument came and we said the man over the bear is because historically men have done this to us."
Mm-hmm.
Men should have said, "Okay, I understand. I'm sorry this happened to you. Let's try to fix it." Boom. That should have been that. And then men's rebuttal shouldn't have been a rebuttal. It should have just been the other side of the conversation. Well, hey, when you behave in this type of way, in this type of way, it does this to us. It drives us to have high suicide rates. We don't feel we need more emotional support because as kids we were never taught how to be emotionally intelligent. We were taught that as boys we could never be human, and so we don't know how to express ourselves a certain way. Be patient with us, and that should have been received in a positive way. But J. Edgar Hoover and the government's plan is so in deep effect that that's not what happened. Oh, and you're gonna pick the man over the bear, but ask the bear to help you change that tire on the side of the road when you get a flat. You know what I'm saying? And on the flip side, y'all want to be women. Y'all want to be coddled. Y'all want somebody to rub your back and say it's gonna. Y'all, where the men at? That is absolutely the fruit of the plan to keep us divided. That
I agree.
Can I say something too, Tim, in regards to that? What you're saying is 100%, but you know something? We also have to recognize that we are not monoliths. And part of the problem is that, this is not on one side, this is on both sides, right? We end up encompassing everyone instead of saying there are some. And I say this all the time. Those words mean something. You can't say, well, women are this, but you don't know every single woman, right? You can
Right.
say the women I've dealt with, the women I've been around, there are some women I've seen, there are some women, some women. That's more acceptable. And I think when it comes to things like that, we'd be more accepting of that. Same thing with men. We can't say all men because we don't know all men. But what we can do, and I think a lot of us have tried to start taking steps to do, is to not say all men. We will say some men. We will say these men that I've been around, these men that I've seen. We can say that, and that kind of what we do that in an effort to make it more digestible, so that so it's more acceptable. You understand? But do you know, even sometimes when you do that, people are not willing to accept that. You understand? They're not willing to accept that at all. And it's really sad because what we need in this community is we do need accountability, but we also need compassion. And we need to understand what the other person has gone through and the things that they've gone through, not constant finger pointing. And that's part of the problem. We point fingers, not just men to women, not just women to men. We all do. We point fingers at each other, right? And that's not going to facilitate a conversation. All that's doing is facilitating blame. And blaming and shaming don't work. That's never going to bring us back to unity.
Okay. It's we've been on here for about an hour and 45 minutes, 39 minutes. If we guys, you want to go around and give out some closing statements, I guess we could start with Wild Yam. You first.
Another awesome show. Tim, this was a great with you. I really enjoyed the conversation and the subject topic. Um, this kind of opened my eyes watching those videos to some things that I didn't know about. I knew some of it, but this really put more perspective on it by watching those things. Um, and I think just moving forward, honest conversations need to be had. And like Tim said, we need to listen to each other's grievances and just try to mend the fences and move forward. And just stop with this false rhetoric and narrative to tear each other down. And that's all I have.
Sunday. You got something to say?
Yeah, this is a good topic. I think we're definitely going to have to spin the block. There's so much stuff to touch on and talk about. Ain't no time, but yeah, I enjoyed it. We're going to have to revisit.
Girl, we got more. And one thing I want to say before we move on to the Timothy is I really appreciate the fact that when I was telling you certain things, you didn't come from the aspect of she's a woman, she don't know what she's talking about. And I really, really I'm glad that you listened to some of the things that I was tried to told you. Did you next?
Tim, this was a great presentation. I love this conversation. I think we need to continue to have more of these conversations because it maybe that'll start facilitating some understanding between us and within our community. Maybe this will be something that'll help. So I really enjoyed this topic. And I hope we can continue this again. You did a great job, and I enjoy watching your videos. That second video was awesome.
Yep. Sister Ivory.
Yeah, great show, everyone. Um, of course, I don't have anything nice to say about the blacks, so I'm not going to say anything at all. Um,
Blacks. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
Ivory hates the blacks. I throw it out there. We hate the
That is
blacks.
funny.
Hey,
I can
this
dig it. I can dig it, Ivory.
this. Oh, you're not done yet. I'm sorry.
I'm done. I'm finished.
Okay, share my screen because this conversation reminded me about something, and I think that this conversation kind of can bleed into this other little thing that's going on. So let me just play this here. Oh, and where the sound at? Sound.
Oh, this
Where
is
are
going to
you?
be interesting.
Where is the sound? Why is there no sound? Why is there no sound?
Shit. Do the research on it. Okay. Look it up. I want to debate you.
Wow.
And I want to debate you on, and I don't debate, but I want to I want to debate you on the welfare system. Uh-oh. I want to debate you on the crack era. Anything you want to add to that after that, we can do it. Let DMG set it up. And I don't debate, but I want to debate you on
Oh,
No, do the research
on it. Okay.
And we still waiting on that debate. We still
Well,
waiting.
Captain K, I didn't forget about you. Get
this
with
conversation
DMG.
that we had, this
That's
Get
conversation
right.
we had
with
right now.
DMG so that we can get this conversation. Since you don't want to debate me,
He
we
was in
can
the
get this
comments earlier. He know
conversation.
what's going on.
We can get this conversation.
Shots fired.
And Cap, if you scared, bring Jenna Johanna because it's Smoke City over here.
If you scared, go to church.
And you dealing with like the info warrior, not the diabolical diva.
Right.
What she
Boom!
This conversation that we had right here today goes right with what you guys were talking about during that exchange, and it is what it is. Be what it, make it do what it do, baby.
Do what it do.
And I want to say one more thing, guys. We are going to spin the block on these topics. the brother is putting together some more videos from some stuff that we talked about.
Right. Be sure to check me out on the Average Black Man Show if you want to see any of those videos or whatever. Go check me out, like and subscribe over on the Average Black Man Shizzo.
And
Thanks,
I
everyone.
We had a great day.
It's the Average Black Man Show.
So Ivory, you could take us up out of here. Good night.
Diabolical. Yeah, the divas in the building. Hold on, bounce on them, let's get it. Yeah. Diva. Shit. Did it, did it, did it, did it, did it, did it. We the diabolical diva, baby, watch how we step. Watch it, step right. Whole crew too fine, too lit, too blessed, too blessed. Floating in the room, yeah, the vibes they set. Float, they set. They ain't met them yet. Name another squad, harder, we ain't met them yet. I ain't met them yet. Average smooth like the skin tone, creamy with the flex. Classy, but she slide if you coming incorrect. Don't try it. Cookie so sweet, but she crumble. Who you test? Got a monster in the sheets, yeah, she eating the bread. Like in the dark, she can pull those things. Beam on the beat, she the vibe, you sing with the team. She fine, yeah, she mean. Body like a problem that you never finna clean. Legend in the making, and she walking like a fable. Every time she pop out, whole sitting stable. Sunday with a drip, yeah, she sweet, yeah, she tasteful. Cold on her head, look, baby, too graceful. Did a stay, did it, yeah, she always wanna. Big step of energy, she never gets stuck. Whole team bad, yeah, the pressure too much. If the world need a vibe, we don't want they call us. Software on do, savage on cue. Pretty in the face of the two, brand new. Heels on the floor, and the jeans all true. All to remove it, winning quite a how we do. Divas step, divas rep.